right, you guys. Drake Riggs here with the Sonnens here from an undisclosed location, Chael.
This is Pharaoh.
Yep. What's up?
What'd you tell me to call you? T-Hoss?
Bone.
T-Bone. T-Bone.
All right, is this interview
My ace, 9 years old.
debut here, right? Maybe?
What?
All right. Moving on.
Oh, Chael, yes, like I said, in undisclosed location here, doing a thing, last day of training, right, for going to Brazil for the trip, man. Great to see you. I want to bring this up right away. Speaking of Brazil, Chael.
Well, it's hard to know because you're dragging it on. You wanted to bring it up right away. I mean, I feel like you would have just got right into it.
Last time I saw you,
I mean, it really feels like you're kind of dragging this story along. Chael Sonnen here, joined with his son Thera. We're in beautiful Westland, Oregon, in a makeshift camp right before Sonnen packs up to go to Brazil to take on his nemesis, Anderson Silva, to attempt to defeat him for a record third time. I am Drake Riggs. Thank you for tuning in.
And that's it.
Kaboom. All right. Now let's do it your way.
Nail it, yes. I want to talk about Wanderlei real quick, Chael, because
Yes.
last time I saw you, the award show, man, I don't know if you saw, but this was after you said, Wanderlei, good friend, surprised me with that one. He said you guys aren't friends after he got inducted in the Hall of Fame. What is up with this, man?
I think, and maybe he did say that, I thought what he said is, he was listing like levels of friendship, and he said that guy won't be invited to my house anytime soon. Right. Which I don't know if that meant like we are, but you still have something. I'm standing by it. Wanderlei turned out to be a friendly guy. What can I do? I don't want it to be true. I want to despise him.
Yes.
I can't.
All right, we'll take it there. And of course, Chael, as every time we catch up, man, I got to get updates on Submission Underground before we talk more about boxing. Any progress there?
Well, Submission Underground was a very sore subject. Like, that was I did not want that outcome. I was very passionate about it, and our matchmaker died, Heather, and it was one of these situations. So, as a vow to Heather, we were going to make Mason Fowler versus Gordon Ryan, which was her ultimate match, and frankly, it's the only grappling match that's still left to do. The UFC agreed to do it. They agreed to do it for us, and they actually booked the match. Gordon wasn't feeling well, so I think Gordon's back on his feet. I think he's getting ready to defend at Abu Dhabi, but I can't confirm that. I know he's having a hard time with his stomach for a little bit there.
And I mean, speaking of
Somebody
that,
stole his truck. Did you know that?
Yes, it was Craig Jones, I thought.
Yeah, right. It's Craig Jones. It was a badass truck, though, by the way. And yeah, they took it, and I mean, he worked hard for that rig. He's kind of a car guy, but he works hard for his money. So. Yes. I did not like this. Somebody took his truck. I'm glad that the rig is back.
Yes.
I wanted to take on Mason Fowler more, but I think the rig is back.
We'll take what we can get. But speaking of Craig, I've got to get your thoughts on what do you think about what he's doing.
Bless you.
If you've heard the news with him going against ADCC and the payout, what's your thoughts on
this?
Well,
I had a concern for Craig, which was whoever the alleged money crypto guy is. I don't know how many stories I've heard from an alleged unnamed crypto guy, and they never came through. And I think some other people brought that to Craig's attention. Hey, man, it's not the alleged guy that's going down on this thing. It's going to be your reputation. You got one crack at it. Right. You owe one person in this business money. And Craig said, no, I've got it secured. We've got it in cash, and he's going ahead. In fairness, I wish it wasn't happening. I feel like I owe Abu Dhabi. I feel like everybody owes Abu Dhabi to a degree. Craig Jones had such great experiences in Abu Dhabi, and that's where I discovered him, at least from my own personal perspective, where I saw him looking great out there. He had the long pants. They were all colorful. He was this young guy. I want to say he was 21 or 22, and I would hope that Craig had good memories of Abu Dhabi. Like maybe Abu Dhabi helped him and helped his gym, but if he's going into something, I don't have ill wishes. Right. I just wish that it could be both together. I wish those two weren't fighting. It quite frankly, I don't like it.
You don't think competition's good, though, for the sport overall?
Yeah, I think competition can be good. Well, you hear that a lot. You hear that from people that say a lot for the sport.
It's a big pro
overall.
wrestling thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know how true it is. Yeah. I don't know how true it is. There's ways in contracts and negotiation, there's a thing called leverage, but people never talk about that. They say for the sport. It's like, and I never quite know how they get to that conclusion. Like, okay, they're on at the same time, so now you can only watch one, you can only watch half of each, which equals one. But people love to say for the sport. I don't know how they get to that conclusion. I'd be open to hearing, but I don't think they're sincere when they mean it.
Yeah, it is an interesting debate for sure, man. But okay, let's talk more about Chael Sonnen. And coming out of retirement, man, officially, right? Technically, I didn't think we would see the day because you waited longer than most people do, but I know this was an invitation from Anderson, right? He wanted you specifically. Were you thinking about already? You've mentioned Jorge things. Just tell me how we got to this point, Chael.
Well, I appreciate you setting it up like that he had invited me because there's a part that embarrasses me. Yeah, I don't. When guys come back, it's always weird, or this guy ran out of money, or he needed the attention so bad, and the drugs wore off. It's always something like this. And I told my wife, and she just said, "So what are you doing?" And I didn't know how to explain it, but I took one shot one time, and she never asked again. And I said, my ego is big enough. It used to be if somebody called me, I'd get right there. Mm-hmm. I would rather whatever the consequences could be, than back down. And my ego is not of that anymore. I could turn the other cheek. I could walk the other way. And I told her, with every man alive but one, him, if he calls for me to fight or he offers me an opportunity to redeem, I have to take it. And she understood that, and I don't know how else to say it, but there we are.
All right, fair enough. And you said that he offered MMA first, and that's kind of where the Jorge link comes in. So I got to bring up Masvidal, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but is that the only reason you went with boxing? Was because easier to train for too.
Okay, now I got to tell you, if I said that, I misspoke. Okay. I didn't mean to say that. I was dealing with Anderson and Masvidal at the same time.
Okay.
And I was on the phone with Mams of Misfits. He had Masvidal on the other line, so he needed to hang up with me and go deal with Masvidal. And I don't know if that means Masvidal's people, but he said, the last thing he asked me, he said, "What style do you want it to be?" And I said, "Let him choose." And I don't know if that's like an intimidating macho line. I don't know. All I know is I never heard Masvidal's word again. He never said my name. He moved right on. So there was something about it that he either respected or feared. But either way, that wasn't the case with Anderson. Anderson was always boxing.
All right. Okay. So, how has, I guess, the mindset...
Do you know what I would do to George Masvidal? Honestly, do you know what I would do to George Masvidal? Did you see him today? Did you see, these guys come up to get the jump on? You know who tries to do that to me in the streets? Nobody. And then they're like, but I'm a fellow fighter. You know how many fellow fighters try to do that to me? In my entire career, I was called out a grand total of that many times. And you can Google that. You will not find an exception. I have never in my life been called out. I'm the guy you don't call out. I do the calling out.
There it is. Yes, of course, Chael. For the Anderson trilogy, though, man.
Little George Masvidal. You want to know what he said? This is a true story.
Let's hear it.
He says, I'll give him his biggest bag. He said, I'll give him his biggest bag. Which is a little weird to offer when I haven't asked for it yet. Like, if we get a negotiation, we're going back and forth. There's got to be my highest amount. It's completely different. He offered my bag. Okay, you know what, George? I accept. Secondly, he says, I will put it in the contract. I won't even throw my right hand. I don't know what that means. Like if Dan Henderson said I would get big right hand, or Josh Koscheck said, well, it's a big right hand. Is George known for a big right hand or something? Like, I trust that it's not pleasant, but I won't even throw my right hand. Like, you're feared of the right hand. Kamar Usman knocked you sideways. Gilbert Burns beat you every which way, including out of the business. You're not going to win a boxing match against Nate. Like, what big right hand? Oh, and by the way, before I tease him, I accept. He said, I'll write in the contract. 3 times, I accept. Biggest bag, no right hand, put it in a contract. You idiot. It wasn't as though I was going to go through life respecting George Masvidal. But when you say something that stupid, I accept. I would never make such an offer. I'm going to throw both my hands at you, and I'm going to cheat on top of that. I'm going to do whatever I want. You are going to put in a contract with my biggest bag that you're not going to throw apparently your best weapon, a right hand. You are a dumb son of a bitch.
I agree big time. He's a little leprechaun. Size of this.
Are we thinking of McGregor?
I'm thinking of Jorge.
Okay, just making sure. Because it's the M, Masvidal, McGregor.
He's the size of this. Like, I could throw this at his head, and he'd be knocked out.
Setting up multiple fights here.
Yeah, like if it was switched around with Ben Askren and George Masvidal, Ben Askren could have threw a water bottle, and he would have been.
Could have thrown a thong at him. Isn't that called a thong? Slipper?
It's called a flip-flop.
Okay, now what's the relevance to the slipper can knock out George Masvidal? I'm all for it, but he has a big head, you say?
I'm saying, okay. You
Break it down.
probably don't know what a bubba is, but they're this big.
No, I have a strict background in heterosexuality. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but go ahead.
These kids they call them bubbas, and they're about this big. He is about the size of a leprechaun, which is about this big, and a bubba, which is this big, which means it's the size of my eyeball. Right here.
Okay. I got the whole thing. He's small. I'm big. How does the sandal beat him?
He's got a quieter mouth than you do.
You're not going to tell me about the sandal?
Oh, dear God.
No, you're a little performer. I'm appreciating this. This is great. I'm proud of you. But what about the sandal?
Who?
Back to you.
Back to Chael, for the Anderson trilogy, man. I gotta wonder, is it harder to want to punch the guy in the face after all these years? I know there's a rivalry and things, but I know you have been friendlier with him going into Brazil. That's something we didn't get to do for the rematch, which was the big hype thing. I guess in terms of that preparation, how is it?
Well, it's a tough question to answer, and here's why, in all fairness. I can't say something about him that he wouldn't say about me. Like, if he goes, oh, he's a great guy, and I'm welcoming in, and we're going to finally do that steak medium rare. Like, if that's the thing, I would be very gracious, and I would keep my head down, right? Because there's a code. We fought, there's a code. He won. It's the way it goes. So you must. This is the code. This is the martial. This is the code you have to go by. At the same time, it's his retirement fight under boxing rules. He could get anybody, and they asked for me, which means, one, he believes he can beat me, and two, the number one rule to beating me is damage. So he's inviting me over to damage me. Like, it's not that overly kind of a thing, but I will go in there graciously and respectfully if that's what it takes. The truth is, the moment I can punch him in the face, I will. Whether we were in this ring or it's at the press conference, he can't be within an arm's reach of me. I will always be polite, but he needs to keep his distance. I'm a very shady guy. The kids I like best in school are the ones I met right outside of the principal's office. Isn't that right, Thero?
Yeah.
There we go. Confirmed. All right, Chael, I want to go through the time machine with you, man, if that's all right. This has been a dream of mine. You know, I can't hide my bias that you were kind of the reason that I'm here right now.
Thank you,
honestly.
Drake. That's beautiful.
So I've been dying to ask.
That really is very beautiful. I didn't know that. Thank you. That's a big compliment. Thank you.
That. The Justin Bailey flying knee.
Yes.
40-second victory.
Yes.
What are your memories of this? And I have not seen this because the footage, I don't know if it is out there, but imagining you knocking someone out with a flying knee is something I do need to see if it exists.
Yes.
How cool was that in the moment? Tell me about this story.
First, I really like Justin Bailey, and we were in a 4-man tournament. So I drive in. There's no contracts. I mean, these promoters, this place is completely sold out, really had no way to know that we were even going to show up. I mean, I would imagine it was me and some buddies jumped in a car. We stopped in a hotel, and one night we ended up making it the rest of the way. And I only say that just the sport was in a different place back then. I don't think there was a way, and I sure don't remember one. There definitely was not a commission, and wrapping of your hands. Gloves were optional. I tell you that story because my flying knee, which is one of my career, is like everybody else's flying knee, which is I've never practiced it, but you can't. It's all in your mind. You know, it's like Anthony Pettis couldn't imagine running up a cage and kicking a guy in the face, or couldn't have actually practiced it. It was just in his head. And I had a belief that if you change elevation, you could get a fellow wrestler. Bailey was a champion wrestler. Believe if you change elevation, you could get them to pause, and I could jump up the middle. It was only in my head, and I faded, he paused, I jumped up the middle. I remember that match, yes. And he went down, and you know, you're supposed to finish, and you're instructed to, and you can kick it down to opponent as long as it's not in the head. I just remember he went down, and I kicked him, and I feel like a scumbag to this day. And I actually had a woman say something to me. She was a big supporter of mine, and she pulled me aside. She said, hey, man, I was really disappointed when you kicked him. So I was too. I didn't know he was staying down, though. I didn't know he was, I thought he was like on his way back up. Anyhow. That's what I remember about that. And then I was supposed to fight with Tim McKenzie in the finals, and that was the problem with tournaments back then, is they were so hard, guys just could not come out for the second match, or the way it used to, three matches. And yeah, it was one of the last tournaments ever done.
I love that you mentioned that, though, because you did still fight Tim McKenzie. That did still happen, and I believe that was your quickest win, the 13-second Darce choke, right? And that was on the beach, Bodog, if I'm recalling correctly. Chael, that seems like the happiest I've ever seen you.
Yes.
You really were, freaking out about that one. What was the memories of that one?
Imagine from my perspective. So first, Tim went on. He was younger than me, right? I mean, if somebody was good, I needed to win that match. And he did it, and he went on and had this awesome career. Tim McKenzie had a great career. But they bring you out. We don't know what's going on. It's for a fight. When you get there, there's fighters everywhere. And there's 66 fights. There's 33 fights, 66 athletes. They revealed to us once we're there that this is going to be televised, to not repeat the outcome, which even though the internet was a thing, it wasn't really. Like, you could do something like that and get away with it. Yeah. And they let us know it's going to be on this channel called Ion, which is very exciting for us. So we're out there a week early. We're making commercials. We're building this thing up. And there were 66 fights. They're going to do 5 this week and 5 this week and 5. It was going to be a months-long thing. And the stress that was involved in that. And then they set the ring up on the beach. Well, the sun came down so hot that one guy got taken down and it burned his back.
Oh, my God.
And everybody that went in this area of the ring was screaming in pain, but one guy actually took his opponent down to hold him there by submission,
Oh, no.
with the guy screaming in pain as it's burning. So they come to get and they're doing like 3 and 4 or 5 days of fights. Well, Tim and I are the last day. So I'm in bed and we're going to fight later in the afternoon. They come and pound on my door. It's in the morning. And one of my things on fight day, it doesn't matter what time, but I just stay in bed all day. Even if I'm awake, but I stay in bed. I think I'm conserving energy. I do one of these things. At any rate, man, it's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
He's on his way to the ring. And I've got to get over to the place, get wrapped up, get my gloves on. I got to find my cup, find my gear, find my mouthpiece. So at any rate, all of these things happen. We start, and his rib went out. I tripped him, and he went down. I thought I got a submission, like it was listed as a submission.
Right.
But when he went down, his rib went out. At any rate, so just imagine that relief. You say it was one of my happier moments, but imagine that relief where I'm sitting out there for a week. There's 66 fights. I watched 65 of them. Get woken up, got to go to this thing that is ultra stressful, but now it's not for me because I didn't have any time to stress about it. It was a pretty cool moment. Yeah, that was fun. Bodog had some of the best memories. Calvin Air and Bodog, some of the best memories. Miguel Atari, and just some really, really great people. I mean, that's how I met Paul Lazenby and stayed in touch. Jeff Osborne. I mean, these guys were like legends of our sport. Legend administrators, legends, behind the scenes. And I owe those guys a lot. I owe Miguel. I don't know how to find him. I've looked for Miguel for 5 years. I can't find him.
Maybe you can see this and we'll get
Yeah,
it there.
no, please tell him hello and thank you. Yeah, Miguel believed in me at a time when I really needed somebody to. And I've never been able to thank him because I can't find him.
Jeez, on the run maybe, who knows? But yeah, like celebration-wise, that's why I bring it up, because comparatively, I think about, your incredible Shogun victory, and it's like just stone cold, kind of taking that moment, and then compare it to that.
That was a good feeling too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened there. I had one of those in wrestling too in 1998, and I even had a guy tell me that, just like you, because you acted different in this one than other ones. Like, it was a special moment. I don't know if I could fully explain why. Probably things behind the scenes that you didn't see, but it was a relief.
What was your Pancrase experience like in Japan? Went over, fought Yamamiya. Unfortunately, didn't get the win there, but like going to Japan, it feels like such a long time ago for you, and I believe that was the only fight.
Yes.
Just like, what are the memories of Pancrase?
Well, it was so difficult. I would spend, at some point in my day, every day I would go to practice, but at some point in my day, every day, I would search out fight promotions and search for a contact button and send them emails and try to get fights. And, I mean, it was so incredibly difficult to get matches back then. So when I finally got somebody's interest from Pancrase, and I had to name drop Randy Couture, and I somehow hinted that he would like come along or be cornering me or something like that. I just know Randy got brought up, and it worked. And they went for it. They were excited. Like that was a thing, and it was my way in. But before we go any further, they were only bringing Americans that were under contract with Phyllis Lee. So they contact me with Phyllis Lee, who I'd never met. She sends me like a absolute life-committing contract. It is the single worst contract I have ever read. Not to mention, it wasn't easy to read. I mean, she sends a contract that's several pages. It's 20%. It's anything you do. We may never speak. We've never spoke at this point. You're going to sign with me. You're never getting out of it. It is how it felt reading that. So I did not do that, but I kept working. I kept staying on him, and finally got an opportunity to go. And then they had me back. I got to do multiple fights over there. And Dan Henderson was very big in Japan at that time. He came and corner, supported me, lended his name and image. And yeah, man, I looked up to those guys, though. Dan and Randy. There's Matt Lindland. There's nobody else that one in my corner at that time.
Well, that's why I'm curious, like, was Pride ever an option for you? I know you've had comments on it over the years, but at that time, no, never came up.
No, and they had a tryout. I mean, a lot of those comments came out of resentment for not being given the opportunity, but Pride had a tryout in LA that turned out to be nothing more than a marketing scam, and I was so rubbed the wrong way because it was overwhelmingly successful. I want to say it was on like the campus of UCLA. It was the college campus somewhere. Right. It was huge, and you got guys like me that are flying in, scraping money together to get out there to go to this thing to impress the bosses, and they gave a Shudo Award or an Aikido Award or some kind of an award, but there's only one, and I got it. And Matt Hume and some Boss Root and some other guys were the ones to judge that. And I mean, I could just tell you as that award was. So essentially, I won the tryout. I guess nothing. Not even an email saying, "Hey, thank you for coming." Wow. It was an absolute scam, and that's a scumbag thing to do to hungry fighters that are trying to get by. You could just say, "This is for marketing. Get your name out there. Come and meet these guys." They could have done that, but that was dirty by them.
Why was there a 5-year gap between your debut and then the second fight against Mayhem? I was always curious about that.
5-year debut between my... Oh, okay. So that I was in college.
Like 02?
Yes, 1997. I went up and I think Ben Haley was his name, but I fought a gentleman in the state of Washington. I was a freshman or sophomore in college, and we went up to do it, and at that time, you didn't even practice it. I belonged to this Muay Thai gym, but even in Muay Thai practice, we didn't touch one another, ever. Never would you touch each other. You didn't need mouthpieces or headgear because you weren't touching each other. And so anyway, the coach came in one day and said, hey, who wants to fight? We're going up to these fights. And so we didn't know the rules or what it was going to be or anything like this. And so I went and did that one match, but I was still in college. So then there was just a gap until I got out, I suppose is how I remember that.
Makes sense. Would you say that, even though the result didn't go your way, the Tito buildup was the most fun you had? Because I remember those press conferences and just you torched him so good.
Tito was a really difficult one for me. I've never had, I've had sore losers, but I've never had a sore winner. I've never been the guy that was beat and then had his face rubbed in it like the puppy that missed the paper. Right. And I didn't know if that was Tito's gimmick or shtick and he was trying to set up other fights. I was completely fine with it. Like, if the camera's going and he's up there working, he was very good. He was very charismatic. He used to be the face of the sport. He sold out arenas. I had no problem or even learning from him and what he's doing, but it was behind the scenes when there were no cameras. I go, man, this guy's really going to tease me? Do you not know how bad you are at the sport? Do you not know how the sport looks at you? This is humiliating for me. You don't beat anybody, and you just cleaned me up. It was a really hard thing. I thought he could have tipped his hat. He was, we were in his hometown. The place was sold out. There was a good payday. I mean, there was some stuff there to celebrate, but I didn't think he needed to tease me about it.
He did tap. That's a good point.
Yeah.
You guys are 1-1. He did tap. We saw it.
1-1, and I will tell you, when I beat him, I never brought it up. I never teased him. He went on to be the champion. I was still in college. It was one of these things. I was surprised that he made fun of me for losing to him. Ha ha, you suck. You lost to me. Okay. Good enough.
Yes, indeed. All right, Jay. Well, I appreciate that stroll down memory lane, man. I really do. So, as I leave you off here, thank you so much. Skip a prediction for, of course, Anderson Silva.
That was fun,
yeah.
By the way. I'm like anybody, nostalgia. Nothing will light me up more than talking about the good old days, junior high, or going to a class reunion, or running into people. I think everybody likes that as human beings when somebody brings up something they did in the past, and even if they did it well. We were all more handsome at one point. We're all, what we thought were a little more charming or something like this. So, thank you for doing that. And the prediction for Anderson, I suppose if you're the final person I talk to, I would leave you with one final message, which is I've seen people in my shoes, and they've done a number of things. From I didn't quite have the notice, or boxing isn't my thing, it's his thing, something along these lines. I would never say that. I would never want to leave any hint to any of that. If I lose to him, I will be completely devastated, and I don't care what the rules are. It could be a bake-off. We could go over there to thumb wrestle. It doesn't make a bit of difference to me. Priority number one is damage, and he's essentially having a party and a retirement party, and he's brought me along, and they're already in the street celebrating, and it's not so fast, and this isn't going to be quite as easy as you think. I'm going to warm up with you, and I'm going to finish with you, Masvidal.
All right, there we have it. I mean, I think we should leave the last word with T-Bone.
Anything from T-Bone?
Yeah.
I have one question. What are you going to what do you want to have? Oh my gosh. What food do you want to have in Brazil?
Ooh.
Coxina. There's a meat and a cheese in the ones I like. The whole thing's breaded and deep fried. It's kind of what you would know as a pizza pocket, but it's called a coxina. How about you? What do you want to eat in Brazil?
Mashed potatoes, and there was one more thing. Oh, Anderson's wife's steak.
Medium rare?
Mm-hmm. A1 sauce.
Just the way we like it.